15th chapter of the book of Mishlei, Ma'aneh Rach Yashiv Chema Udvar Etzef Ya'ale'af. A gentle response allays wrath. A harsh word provokes anger. Right? You're in an argument with somebody, tone it down. It's not going to playing a fierce game of ping pong back and forth is not going to help. A gentle response is something that's necessary rather than fighting back. This is not the boxing ring. This is life. Lashon chachamim teitiv da'atu fi ksilim yabia ivelet. The tongue of the wise produces knowledge, but the mouth of the dull, of the fools, pours out folly. Again, themes that we've seen over and over again. The idea of knowledge, the idea of the fool versus the knowledgeable one, the yin yang, the good, the bad, right? Very much over and over again, a lot of the similar ideas. B'chol makom einei Adonai tzofot, ra'im v'tovim. Guys' eyes are everywhere. This is right. The Lord of the Rings got it from there. Observing the bad and the good. And I think it's a reality that's said in this verse, right? Again, this book describes tzaddikim versus rishaim. There's the good and the bad. There's the wise one and the foolish one. But everywhere we look, there are good things and there are bad things. That's just the realities of life. I'm not saying that the people are simply good and bad, but there are good qualities of a person. They're not such good qualities of a person. Nobody is perfect, and that's the messiness in the sense of life. Marpel shonei chayim v'selef bashever beruach. A healing tongue is a tree of life, but a devious one breaks a person's spirit. And again, very similar things that we've seen before. We saw this 2 chapters ago, a little bit last chapter, the idea of chayim, the idea of the way you speak, being wrapped up with righteousness and being wrapped up with giving of life and enhancing of life and making things better, as opposed to the devious ones. Their plans ultimately will break and be destroyed. We're in verse 5, Pasukei Avil, Yinatz Musar Aviv Shomer Tochachot Ye'arim. A fool spurns the discipline of his father, but one who heeds reproof becomes clever. Again, something we've seen over the last number of chapters. If you want to become smart, listen when somebody has a suggestion for you. Beit Tzadik Chosen Rav Utfuot Rasha Ne Karet. In the house of the righteous there is much treasure, but in the harvest of the wicked there is trouble. Siftei chachamim yizaru da'at v'leiv ksilim lochein. The lips of the wise disseminate knowledge, not so the minds of those who are ksilim, those who are dull, those who are foolish. We have these phrases, Siftei chayim, a couple of places. We had it in past books. Siftei chayim yishmeru da'at. Here it's Yizaru Da'at is the words that we have. Zevach Rishaim To'avat Adonai Tfilat Yishayim Ritzono is Pasuk Chet, verse 8. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to God, but the prayer of the upright pleases him. This sounds very Isaiah-like, right? Lama li rov zivchechem. Yeshaya mouths the words of God to the Jewish people. Why do I need your offerings? If you're wicked, if you're going to be evil, if you're going to abuse your workers, if you're going to take advantage of the poor, of the widow, then what's the point of bringing sacrifices? The sacrifice of the wicked is just an abomination. It doesn't make things better. To'avat Adonai derech rasha umiradef tzedakah ye'ehav. The way of the wicked is an abomination to God, but he who loves God pursues righteousness. It's a word like we have back in the Torah, Parshat Shoftim, tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, right? Righteousness you shall pursue. It's not just something that comes to your door, I'll do something righteous. You have to pursue it. You have to actively try to be righteous, right? God loves the one who pursues righteousness, who runs after the idea of doing a mitzvah, of doing an act of kindness, an act of goodness. Musar Rav, le'ozev orach, soneh tochachot yamot. Discipline seems bad to him who forsakes the way. He who spurns suggestions and reproof will die. Shaol ve'avadon neged Adonai afki libot bnei adam. Shaol and avadon, right? Avad, to be lost. Shaol, the underworld, the netherworld, the place where you go and you can't come back, right? Those places lie exposed to God. They are dead. How much more the lave Here we think of Lev as a heart, but Lev very often, certain times, certain periods, is understood as the mind, and that's at least in my translation here. The minds of men would make more sense that it would be the mind here, because of course so much of this book is wrapped up with the idea of chokhmah, of wisdom. Now we've talked many times how wisdom is more of a moral education. It's not just simply being knowledgeable, but the minds of men are exposed to God even more than these places where the wicked end up in. Lo ye'ahav leit ocheach lo el chachamim lo yelech. The scoffer dislikes the suggestions. He dislikes any reproof. He dislikes being told what to do. And what's going to happen? He's not going to go to the wise, and he's going to remain who he is as a leitz, as a scoffer, as a cynic. He's not going to gain anything in life. Leiv sameach yetiv panim uve'atzvot lev ruach niche'ah. A joyful heart makes for a joyous face. A sad heart makes a despondent mood. We know this, that enthusiasm and joy and happiness spreads. And if it's not that, and you are at sadness and anger, those spread also. Leiv navon in verse 14, yivakesh da'at, ufich silim yireh ivelet. The mind of the navon, the person who, the analyzer, right? The person who, here in my translation, a prudent man seeks knowledge. The mouth of the dull, of the fool, what does it pursue? Something that's evil, something that's foolish, something that's folly, something that won't get anywhere. Kol yemei ani ra'im v'tov leiv mishtet tamid. All the days of a poor man are wretched, but contentment is a feast without an end. And here, let me just comment about the earlier verse before we sort of continue here. And again, this distinction between the wise one and the fool, and so much of it is wrapped up in a desire to be wise. This is not about, and not just about, God-given brains and God-given wisdom. This is about a desire to know more, and this is very much about a willingness to hear, to listen, and to learn from others, no matter how wise and how smart you are. And that's oftentimes the distinction that's being given in these verses and in these chapters. Let's continue in verse 16. Tov ma'at birat Adonai me'etzar rav u'muhumavo. Better a little fear of God than great wealth with all sorts of muhuma, with all sorts of confusion. Tov aruchat yarak va'ava. Sham mishor avus v'sin'a vo. Better a meal of vegetables where there is love than a fattened ox where there is hate. You go to some people's homes, are fabulously wealthy, they have all the money in the world, but their entire lives are disasters. Families are disasters. Everybody's fighting. Nobody is talking. Everybody, unfortunately, right? It doesn't matter how much you have very often in life. Of course, there are wonderful, wealthy families where they have a beautiful conversation and beautiful family life. But here, right, it's telling us that it's not all about the Benjamins. It's not all about the money. Ish chema yigarem madon ve'erach hapayim yashkit riv. A hot-tempered man provokes a fight. A patient man calms fights and calms strife. Derech atzel kimesuchat chadek va'orach yisharim stilula. The way of the lazy man is like a hedge of thorns, but the path of the upright is paved. The one who is yashar, it's an easy road to walk on. You're not going to be walking on burning coals. Ben chacham yismachav uchsil adam bozeimo. A wise son makes his father happy. A fool humiliates his mother. He probably humiliates his father as well. Ivelet simcha lechaser lev v'ish tvuna yasher lachet. Folly is joy to one who has no seichel, to one who has no sense, to one who is chaser lev. Again, lev here not meaning heart, but meaning mind and meaning wisdom. So, right, folly is a joy to those who have no seichel. But a man of prudence, a man of knowledge, walks again the path, the straight path. Hafer machashavot be'ein sod uverov yoatzim takum. Plans are foiled because of counsel, because of advice, but they succeed through many advisors. So if you the first half, if you don't have others who give you advice, who you ask, who you have counsel with, then you're going at it alone. Oftentimes it's not going to work. If you want to succeed, ask people for advice. The Ed Koch, how am I doing on the New York City subway? Simcha la'ish b'ma'aneh fiv udvar be'ito matov. A ready response is a joy to a man. How good is a word rightly timed? Orach chayim lemala l'maskil leman sur misha'ol mata. So a person who is wise, a man of intelligence, the path of life leads upwards. If you are maskil, if you have that seichel, then your way of life is going to go lema'ala, ma'alin bakodesh. You're going to be going up. You're going to be improving. You're going to be listening to others. You're going to be taking the counsel of others. When somebody suggests how you do things a little better, you're going to do it a little better. You're also going to increase in life. Things are going to get better. And that's going to help you avoid Sha'ol Mata. What is Sha'ol? The netherworld is going to avoid having you end up in a place where you don't want to end up. Pasuk Chavhei, verse 25, Beit Geyim Yisak Adonai v'yatsev gevul almana. The Lord will tear down the house of the proud, but he will establish the home of the widow. You're too proud, you're too arrogant, you think you have everything. It's not going to last forever. Toavat Adonai machshavot ra utorim imrei noam. Evil thoughts, not only evil action, but even evil thoughts are abomination to God. But pleasant words are pure. Now, thoughts, I know it's hard. Sometimes you have bad thoughts. Sometimes you have illicit thoughts. Sometimes you think a bad thing. So, but here it's saying that they are evil. I mean, really, what's evil is acting upon them. It's I think about where it talks about a Baal Tshuva in the Gemara, that the Baal Tshuva is in a greater place even than the Tzaddik Gamor. Somebody who has repented is in a greater place than the Tzaddik Gamor. But that person who has repented has, sometimes you could say, not morally more evil thoughts, but ritually more quote unquote evil thoughts. Pass by a non-kosher restaurant they used to love, they just want to eat that. Is that an evil thought? Ultimately, right, that is a person who manages to transcend their upbringing, transcend what they were accustomed to, and now has left those things behind. So this is a verse that has sort of complexities to it, just on its most basic level, that a machshava, words, that are not words, but just a thought is such a toeva, such an abomination. Verse 27, Ocher beito botzea batza v'soneh matanot yechia. He who pursues ill-gotten gains makes trouble for his home. Right now he's got lots because he's committed fraud, but he might not be able to commit the fraud the next time, or ultimately, things get caught. And here, he who spurns gifts will live long. Soneh matanot. What is this saying? Soneh matanot yechia. If you hate gifts, you'll live long. Not about what's given to you. It's about what you go out, what you pursue, what you get. Again, this chapter, so much these chapters, the wise versus the fool. The wise is the one who goes out, who finds the counsel, who engages with people who could teach him more, who that's who his circle is. So that person's going to live long because they are active in doing what's necessary. Leiv tzadik yagela anot ufi rishaim yabia raot. The heart of a righteous man rehearses his answer, but the mouth of the wicked just blurts out, just spits out evil things. Rachok Adonai merishem utfilat tzadikim yishma. The Lord is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayer of the righteous, no matter how far physically they are away. Ma'or einayim yismach lev shmua tova tidashen atzem. What brightens the eye gladdens the heart. Good news puts fat on the bones. We live in an age where people want to get rid of fat, but good news puts fat on the bones. So you're going to survive if you have some fat. You're going to survive through the cold, harsh winter where there might not be so much food. And here, right, what brightens the eyes, generally, if it's something that people like, then it's something that's good. Obviously, it's not always the case that way. Ozen shoma'at tochachot chayim bekerev chachamim talin. He, the person whose ear heeds and listens to the discipline of life. Again, the person who, somebody says he did something wrong, he doesn't say, shut up, I don't want to listen to you, I want to hear you, what you said is wrong. The person who's willing to hear the advice of others, right, they will live amongst the wise. But Kerev Chachamim Talin, that's who they're going to end up with, because they're going to take it to heart and they're going to become better. Porei Musar Mo'es, Nafsho V'Shomea Tochachot Koneh Lev. He who spurns discipline hates himself. He who heeds reproof gains understanding. Yirat Adonai Musar Chochma V'Lifnei Chavod Anava. The fear of God is the discipline of wisdom. Humility precedes honors. The person who fears God, right? That's from Musar. Again, so much in this chapter is about the willingness, the ability to listen to what others say. Sometimes in life we do things well, some other things in life we don't do as well. And if you go at it all alone, oftentimes it's not going to work out. If you take the advice, if you listen to others, then and you can incorporate it into your life, then you will end up bekerev tzadikim. You're going to end up amongst the righteous, amongst the wise, and that is a path in life that is, as it says in our chapter, will be orach hayim, will be lamala, that will be constantly ascending.